Star Jagdeo expresses shock at the about turn of the opposition on the issue of accountability in the face of calls for the submission of their lists of assets to the Integrity Commission.
PNCR members of Parliament are not likely to declare their assets to the Integrity Commission, claiming the Commission is illegal, but remain silent on the powers vested in the President by law.
And 15 custom officers and the head of the Fidelity Investments are to be charged criminally for the Fidelity Customs and Trade Administration Polar Bears scam.
The details of these and other stories, the Diamond Mineral Water and NCN Sport News and more in tonight's news. Good evening, I'm Natasha Smith.
And I'm Paul Moore.
With this edition of the 6 o'clock news for today, Friday, January 23, 2009. Here's what's happening.
Thanks, Natasha. The Integrity Commission Act of 1997 states under Article 19 that such a person who is not a member of the Integrity Commission shall each year on or before the 30th of June file with the Commission details of their assets. The Act states too that where a person fails to comply, the Commissioner or the President shall publish their names in the official gazette. But following President Jagdeo's most recent utterances, there has been dissenting voices emanating especially out of opposition quarters. President Jagdeo commented on this issue moments ago.
The whole notion and the issue surrounding the Integrity Commission and submission of assets to the Integrity Commission has received a multiplicity of comments and queries as well as criticisms. How would you react to these criticisms?
Well, first of all, I'm extremely disappointed by the comments made by the opposition parties. I think it is important that the people of our country understand what is at stake here. Many of the comments are made with a view to cast a veil over the real issue here. And the real issue is one of accountability, transparency in public life. The Act clearly states that once you're a public figure, you're obligated to submit a statement of your income, assets, and liabilities to the Integrity Commission. This is largely to safeguard the well-being of the country and to ensure that people who are in positions of authority, that they lead a clean life in public. So if you were to submit this statement, then it could easily be audited at a future date. So if your assets grow disproportionately to your income, then you would have some explanation to do. Now the President, the Prime Minister, members of the Cabinet, members of Parliament, and many others are all required by law to do this. I have done so from the beginning, from 1997 when the Act was passed. The Prime Minister has done so. But I have observed that many members of Parliament have been unwilling to comply with this law, a very important law for transparency in public life. And therefore, I have urged them on several occasions to comply with the law, not with what Jagdeo wants, but with the law of the country. They have failed to do so. Some members of Parliament have not submitted their statement, their declarations for 6-7 years, and yet they have good standing in the Parliament. They still enjoy duty-free concessions. So recently, because in spite of all the public calls, many of them have refused to comply, I said that if they do not comply within 2 weeks, I'd be forced to ask the police to intervene, because if you don't, as the law clearly states, if you don't file or you falsely file statements, then you can be charged, you can be subjected to severe penalties, including imprisonment for a year. This is not about what Jagdeo wants. So I'm surprised that they say because I've asked them to be more transparent in their dealings with the public, that they say I'm a dictator. They have to comply with the law. And what I'm disappointed about is that the same opposition leaders who are complaining about this and who are saying they don't want to file are the ones who often talk about corruption in public life and in the governmental circles. So I think it's double standard. The people of this country have to understand that this is an issue of transparency, and they should come out and speak more about this issue. They should force the members of their parties to comply with the law.
The broadcast of the President's comments can be seen in its entirety later on NCN. 15 customs officers are to be charged criminally for the Fidelity Investment, Customs and Trade Administration Polar Bear scam. This was revealed in a report by the Auditor General, who headed the task force to investigate the crime. The task force also recommends that Fidelity Investments pay over $321 million in duties it withheld from the state. Edward Lane has more in this report.
The task force set up by President Barra Jagdeo to investigate the multi-million-dollar revenue fraud has completed its work, which was made public yesterday by Finance Minister. The report shows that false invoices produced by the customs broker Rajendra Rajkumar were attached to the declarations produced. It declared that assorted aerated beverages and soda water were imported instead of Polar Bear by Kong Incorporated. This resulted in the evasion of duties and taxes totaling $321.527 million. Joshua Shafiq of Fidelity Investment, the sole import of Polar Bear, produced false documents declaring the bears were imported by Kong Incorporated at a cost below the usual price. The task force has since recommended that Shafiq and Fidelity pay a total of $321.5 million for the revenue lost. They have also recommended that Shafiq be charged criminally for producing false documents to the task force with the intent of misleading them. Meanwhile, the broker who colluded with the customs officers and importers to defraud GRA of revenue will also be charged criminally. The 55-page report has also recommended that the broker be charged criminally for declaring false documents to the Customs and Trade Administration with the intent of defrauding the state substantial revenue. On the part of the custom officers involved in this scam, the task force has recommended some 15 officers be disciplined by the GRA, in addition to criminal charges ranging from fraud to malpractice. They have also recommended that 5 customs officers be reinstated in their jobs. Additionally, recommendations from the task force include ensuring that security cameras at the Customs and Trade Administration be operational at all times. The investigation was initiated by President Barra Jagdeo after the Commissioner General of GRA, Khurshid Sattar, voiced his suspicion of fraud among some custom officials. The President immediately established the task force and has recommended that those found guilty be charged criminally. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.